Hey, everybody, week one of another season of the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark. I'm ex-Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia Stars, Ken Dunek. My partner, of course, is the longtime Eagles scribe for the Trenton Times and NJ.com, Mark Eckel. Mark, how are you? Another season. I believe it's number 5 for us. The third one here at Sweet Recording Studios. The first two don't count because we were doing it over the phone and people really couldn't hear what we were saying. So we've actually upgraded to these studios.
They couldn't hear us.
Good to be with you for another season. I got to tell you, I'm fighting the urge to not do the double entendre thing with the Eagles spit out a win on Thursday night. The Eagles are a spitting image of what they were last season, the Super Bowl winners, and we're going to talk about that at length and what I thought was a bad mistake by a guy who's got some skeletons in his closet. And to be a professional, although I thought he was goated by Dak Prescott a little bit there, you got to, as the coaches used to say, hold your water and be a professional. But anyway, we're also really pleased to have the preeminent Eagles expert, in my opinion, a guy that I've known for 45 years, always enjoyed being in his company, miss him on the weekly Sunday Eagles show, but at least we have him here, and that is our good friend Ray Didinger. Ray Diddy, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing good, Ken. It's always good to be with you, and it's always good to be back with Mark again.
Yeah, thanks. Great to see you. Let me mention our sponsors real quick, and we have some new blood in the sponsor pool. We appreciate that. First of all, our returning sponsor is Chris Wilhelm of Citywide Home Mortgage. You can reach Chris in Berlin, New Jersey at 609-234-4304. See Chris Wilhelm for all your mortgage needs. Our new sponsor, longtime friend of mine, JerseyMan, Chairman's Club member, Anthony DiGirolamo of DiGirolamo Financial. Anthony's number is 609-541-7515. Do you want to know what your financial advisor is not telling you? Do you want to know if you should or should not have life insurance? Do you want to know what Medicare is paying? Call Anthony DiGirolamo. He's a retirement income certified professional. And of course, my company, JerseyMan and PhillyMan magazine, we have great live events. Usually get 150 to 250 people. We've got one coming up in Mount Laurel on September 16th and another one in Bensalem, Pennsylvania on October 15th. You can reach me, Ken, at JerseyManMagazine.com or call my cell 856-912-4007. All right, I'm going to hand it off to you guys and talk about what I thought was a very strange start to the season. As a matter of fact, when I saw the spitting incident, I actually thought Jalen Carter was on the special teams. And I'm going, because he was out there so quickly. I said, why is he even, I forget it was the kickoff or the kickoff return team at that point. But he was goaded by Dak Prescott. I actually felt a little bit better about the spitting incident when I saw Dak spit in his direction, because at that point, I thought it was totally unwarranted what Jalen Carter had done. Why don't you guys jump in, Mark, you first, and tell me what you thought about that.
I thought it was disgusting. Jalen Carter, I told you the day they drafted him. Great player. Absolutely.
Superb football player. Might have been the number one pick in the draft had it not been for a lot of this stuff.
Why wasn't he the number one pick in the draft?
Mm-hmm.
A terrible human being. That's people just forgot what happened at Georgia. They just forgot. Mm-hmm. 2 friends died in a car. He took off and then lied to the cops about it. He should be in jail. That's injustice. He's a terrible person. Great player, great football player. One of maybe the top 3 defensive players in the game today.
I would agree.
Terrible people do terrible things, and eventually it hurts you.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles got lucky because Miles Sanders finally helped the Eagles win a game by fumbling, or Dallas would have. Who knows what would have happened? But he almost cost them a game the other night.
Ray, your thoughts on what you saw?
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I mean, there's a reason why Carter wasn't the first pick in the draft. Based on talent, he certainly should have been. I think everybody was in agreement that he was that good a player. He was the best player in the draft. We felt it then, and I think it's been proven to be true. But the reason he fell to 9 was because people were afraid to bring him in because of all the stuff he had been involved with. And they had good reason to question his ability, to his maturity level, to come in and and not play football, but to be a constructive part of a football organization. That his career was going to be a series of these kinds of things. And look, he's proven to be everything you thought he was going to be as a player. But what you saw Thursday night was a reason why he was drafted lower. One of the things that I took away from it is, and I'm not absolving, believe me, I'm not trying to absolve Jalen Carter of anything. I mean, but you know what it told me? I'm thinking as I'm watching this, we talked so much in this offseason and in the run-up to the season about the youth of the Eagles defense, about how average age of the players is like 24.6 years. It's the youngest defense, all the athletic ability, the speed, that's all true. But who's the leader over there? Who's the leader over there? You've got all these young players and really good players. DeJean, Mitchell, Hunt, Ajomo. I mean, these are really good players. But who's the leader? And as I was watching that whole thing play out, and Ken, you're right. I mean, it's very clear that when they're standing face to face, that Dak is goading him. Mm-hmm. Dak is absolutely goading him. If you had a Brandon Graham, if you had a Fletcher Cox, if you had a veteran, even a Darius Slay, a veteran player on the field with him, he would have walked over and got Carter by the arm and said, "Get back over here. What are you talking to him for?" But I think that with that group of guys, they're all so young that I don't think they all saw what was going on, but there was nobody that would take the initiative to do what had to be done, which was get him by the arm, pull him away from that, and get him out of trouble before he could get in trouble.
Yeah, what's he even doing over there? What's he even doing? He's two feet from their huddle. I mean,
what is he even doing there? But so I think that to me, absolutely Carter is wrong, and I'm not going to try and defend him. But what it kind of told me was, I think that sort of speaks to the fact that they really got a lot of talented kids over on that defense, but I don't know that anybody has stepped forward as a leader.
I agree with you 100%. I think a Brandon Graham would have gotten involved with that and squashed it. And, that's an interesting point. Ray, I've always wanted to ask you two questions, and I'm going to take the opportunity to do it right now. What is and you've been covering the Eagles, I think, since the 60s, maybe the 70s. I can't remember. But what's your earliest Eagles memory? I know you used to do the family thing and go to games at Franklin Field. How old were you, and what's your earliest Eagles memory?
My first Eagles game was the opener of the 1956 season.
That's a year before I was born.
Connie Mack Stadium. I was 9 years old. Eagles played the then Washington Redskins.
Wait a minute. If you're 10 years older than me, why do I look older than you on this screen? I'm a little upset by that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But that was it. That was my first memory. And my parents used to go to Eagles training camp every summer and bring me along. And training camps being what they were in the 1950s, which was very informal places, no security, none of that. I was able to stand outside the locker room and wait for Tommy McDonald every day. And, he would hand me his helmet and we'd walk to the practice field together. And that was the start of what proved to be a 40-year friendship and ultimately became the basis of Tommy and me. But that's how far back I go with it. And then I actually began covering the team as a reporter when at the Philadelphia Bulletin, for the people out there that still remember the Philadelphia Bulletin, in 1970. Mm-hmm. So to your point, Ken, yeah, I've been around it a long time.
And my other question, and by the way, I went to a training camp practice. It was actually supposed to be a full contact practice, and they were talking to me before how these guys were going to get after it. They went an hour and 40 minutes. No, I don't think anybody ever hit the ground the entire practice. There was a couple of thuds, but you recall, Ray, the training camps I was in with the Eagles in 80 and 81. These were bloodbaths. I mean, these were 3.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 in the afternoon, full contact, Oklahoma drill, sweat and blood flying all over the place. And not only are the practices easier, but it's a carnival. I mean, they have tents and exhibits, and I mean, it's such a totally different environment than it was back in the day.
Totally different. And I often said, Brian Baldinger and I talked about this, and if you went to one of the Eagles practices now and they talk about like in the last 2 years, they've gotten tougher. I kind of laugh.
Tougher.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they have gotten a little bit tougher under Vic Fangio, but because they were doing nothing before that. I mean, it was just basically they were dancing around the field. All right.
I said to Baldy one time, I said, if we stood here, we were on the sidelines. I said, if we stood here and you closed your eyes, you wouldn't know you were at a football practice. You never heard a pad pop. Right. The only thing you heard was the whistle blew. So you heard a whistle blowing. But in terms of what we associate with what training camps used to be, and especially the ones that you went through with Dick Field in '80, I mean, it bears no resemblance to what
I lost 24 pounds my rookie year in training camp, and my wife wants me to go back to training camp now so I can lose some weight. And my other question, and this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, why haven't they retired number 17, Harold Carmichael's number? Why haven't the Eagles done that?
I don't know.
It hurts him. I mean, I've talked to him about it. He's a little hurt by it.
Yeah, things just never came. They never came to Harold when they should have. I mean,
is it because of Is it because he's pre-Lurie? I mean, does that have something to do with it?
Maybe. Although he certainly worked for the organization, he wasn't playing for the organization, but he was working for the organization when Jeff owned the team. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder about that. I mean, I admit to my Tommy McDonald bias, but I've often wondered why 25 wasn't retired. Right. And they could retire at 25 now and retire it for both Shady McCoy and Tommy. Mm-hmm. Retire it and honor both players. Shady's your all-time leading rusher, so I think you could do that. I've asked the front office about it, and their explanation, we can't retire every number. And they have retired 9, mm-hmm. which is not a small number of numbers they've retired. But there are certain guys that I think deserve it. And, Harold, when you look at his career, I mean, all these years later, still the all-time, still leads you in catches, still leads the franchise in touchdown, still leads in receiving yards. And now he's in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely a guy that deserves it. And hopefully it'll happen for him, but it should.
I hope so. Well, sometimes you got to talk about this stuff because I think we kind of rallied the talk about Coach Vermeil getting into the Hall of Fame. I know Paul Domowitch and you and I talked about it a great deal, not that I have any great influence with anything, but I do think that if enough people hear what should be done, what is a good idea, that it'll happen. Hey, Mark, let's get back to the game. What are your thoughts? I thought, first of all, Kevin Patullo, the new Eagles offensive coordinator, is getting a little bit of heat because he didn't throw it enough to A.J. Brown. People don't realize that sometimes if you want to take – defenses can take things away, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And I thought they had a pretty good game plan of misdirection, play action, getting the ball to Goddard. I thought they ran Barkley a little bit less, although he had 18 carries. I think there's going to be an emphasis on saving him a little bit more this year. What were your thoughts specifically about Hurts and the Eagles' offense and their game plan going into the Dallas game?
I thought Hurts was great. I really did.
I did too.
He won the game for him. I don't know. You guys tell me. I wasn't there, obviously. I'm watching on TV. What happened after the Lightning? Because that was a great game. I mean,
I'd like to tell you, but I was sound asleep. I fell asleep during the Lightning, and I DVR'd it. Thank goodness. But
because I mean, and I'll come clean. I had the over, and I spent the money at halftime.
Yeah.
44 points at halftime, and I got.
They had three in the second half. It's kind of amazing.
And then the Lightning comes and they stop the game. By the way, Ray, or either one of you, Ray, you've been around. Have you ever seen a game stop? I don't, because people were asking me.
What happened a couple of years ago in an Eagles opener, didn't it, Ray? I thought there was a lightning delay in the Eagles opener a year or two ago, if I'm not mistaken. Do you remember that, Ray?
No, I think the last time. See, I haven't gone to the games for a couple of years now, so I've been watching on TV. Mm-hmm. I don't remember that. I do remember covering and this goes back a ways, college all-star game, back when they used to play the college all-star game.
I remember
the defending Super Bowl champ would play the team of the best college players, and they would play at Soldier Field. And the very last one of those that they played, that they discontinued the series, but the last one they played was one of the Steeler teams, the Steel Curtain team, and similar thing, lightning stopped the game, pouring rain, and they didn't even bother resuming it. It took like forever. that was the end of the game. That's the last time I was actually in a stadium when it got called. But when there's lightning, you have no choice.
Right.
I just never. People were asking me if any game that I ever covered was stopped like that. I said no, not in a 32 years. But I even said, if any game should have been stopped for at least a little bit was the Fog Bowl, because all of a sudden it went away and you saw everything, but you didn't see anything for a couple hours.
That was like the NFL's version of the Twilight Zone, that Fog Bowl game. That was just absolutely amazing. And I remember Merrill couldn't see the numbers. Yeah, so they were guessing on plays. Ray, your thoughts on the Eagles' offense, their game plan against Dallas?
I thought that my feeling was I thought that Hurts played great. I mean, I agree with you guys. I thought he played great, and it's so funny now. I mean, and I guess this is going to be the story of Hurts's career. I'm reading and hearing. He passed for 150 yards. He didn't pass for any touchdowns. And in some people's minds, this justifies why they have him ranked as the 12th best quarterback in the NFL or something. Because we are so, in today's NFL more than ever, we are so numbers driven that he's never going to put up Joe Burrow numbers. He's never going to put up Josh Allen kinds of numbers.
How many Super Bowls have those guys won?
And exactly right. What is the purpose? Is the purpose to win somebody's fantasy league?
That has a lot to do with it. I think that does have a lot to do with it.
I see these young kids down here now, right?
They don't pay attention. They don't pay attention to the game, Mark. They're looking at stats. They don't care about the score.
I ask them. I see them out in a bar, restaurant, whatever. And I'm not saying like little. I'm talking like guys in their 25 to 30 range, whatever. Hey, so who's your team? Well, I got Burrow and I have this guy. I don't know. Whoever my quarterbacks are. That's why we care. Fantasy football has ruined the way people think about football now, because they don't, like you said, they don't care who wins the game. They want to know. I want fantasy. So Hurts doesn't give. I don't play fantasy. My line was always.
No, I've never done it. Never done it.
Fantasies involve football. So Hurts, I guess, doesn't put up. Although I would think him running for a touchdown would help a fantasy team. But I don't know how it works. So
yeah, I think so. I don't know how it works either.
It's not going to win you a fantasy game.
Listen, in my opinion, Hurts is certainly a top 10 and probably a top 5 quarterback. If you gave me the choice between Hurts and Lamar Jackson, I'm going to shock people and say I would take Hurts, because Hurts is a proven champion. He shows up big in the big moments, and Lamar Jackson, who may be physically more gifted than Hurts, does not, and he has not in the playoffs. Guys, the Eagles went through a lot of roster changes this year. And when you look at the significant players that they lost, it's going to be a challenge, I think, to get to, the 11-win mark. I know they lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the safety, Mekhi Becton, the offensive lineman, Darius Slay, of course, Milton Williams, the defensive tackle, Brandon Graham, the hero, has retired. Running back Kenny Gainwell is playing for Pittsburgh now. Josh Sweat, we lose. Bryce Huff, the long snapper Rick Lovato, the backup quarterback Kenny Pickett. That's a lot of significant talent to lose. And of course, who we brought in, Jahad Campbell, who I'm going to talk about here in a second, really athletic. I don't see how Nakobe Dean gets that job back. We'll see how that plays out. Andrew Makuba, the safety, Mechie, who they picked up in the trade. A.J. Dillon may be the best third-string running back in the league. They picked up Sam Howell at the end of camp. Offensive lineman Willie Lampkin and Fred Johnson and Zadarius Smith they just got as a defensive end. Ray, we'll start with you. What do you think about the changes in and out there?
Well, you knew coming off a Super Bowl there were going to be changes. We knew that. Certain guys contractually were free agents and made themselves a lot of money in the Super Bowl. I mean, Josh Sweat made a lot of money in the Super Bowl, and Milton Williams too. But I felt that even though, you're losing veteran players and guys that helped you win a championship, but they had some young players who have an awful lot of talent that just needed an opportunity to play more. And I think Ojomo is going to be a really good player. I mean, second half of last year, he got to play more, and he looked really good. And I think Jalix Hunt, for a kid who came out of nowhere, I think has a lot of talent. So, I think they're going to step in this year and play a big role and play quite well. To me, the biggest hit you took was in the secondary. I think your front seven is going to be okay, especially, and you talked about Jahad Campbell, how much he's going to help you there. They're still looking for an answer at that other corner. And frankly, they're still looking for an answer at that other safety spot. They wanted, I think they really felt going into preseason that they wanted Ringo to be the guy, Kali Ringo. They gave him every opportunity, and he just didn't take it. Then they sort of brought in Adoree Jackson as a fallback, and he's not the answer either. So that's why they went out and made the trade for Jacorian Bennett. And by the way, flew him from Vegas to Philly on the red eye. Okay, so that will tell you what they thought of their cornerback position. You bring a guy in, you don't necessarily tell him to fly the red eye. They told Bennett, take the red eye, because they wanted him. I have a feeling it's not going to be very long, and it may even be this week, that he's going to be the guy at that other corner. And I don't know that he's going to be the answer. You're going to have to find that answer somewhere, because, you saw Thursday night that every time they needed a play, they were throwing it right at Adoree Jackson.
And that's going to happen over and over.
That's going to happen over and over.
Teams see the film.
Better answer, right.
Ray or Mark, what do you think of the roster turnover? How'd they do?
I agree with Ray in a lot of what he said. I love Milt Williams. I thought he was a really good player, but they couldn't afford to, New England gave him New England had like $100 million of cap. And Carolina thought they had Milt Williams. The deal was all but done. And New England comes in and says, we'll give you $10 million more, whatever, $20 million, whatever it was more. So, yeah, he was getting paid. Sweat the same way. He was getting paid. Those guys, like you said, you can't keep everybody. They had some young guys that you have to take care of, that you have to give a chance to. But they didn't have, they chose to get rid of Darius Slay.
Right. That's my point. Why get rid of him if you don't have someone that you're comfortable with stepping in?
But going back to what Ray said at the beginning, Slay could have been that veteran leader. Not only is he a better corner than Adoree Jackson stinks. I don't know what they saw in him.
So was it a money issue with Slay?
They got money? Come on.
Well, I know they have money. Sometimes they don't like to spend it.
Then shame on them.
What do you think? What do you think, Ray? Could it have been a money issue with Slay, or did they just gave up on him?
They traded Gardner Johnson. He wasn't.
I know that.
For a guard that was not any good.
I think they thought that they were guys who were of that age that they're, let's just move on. Let's get the younger guys out there, because Howie said he felt one of the mistakes that they made in the past after they won the Super Bowl, the Doug team. He said, probably one of the mistakes we made is we hung on to a few of those older players a little too long. We tried to, the term he used, we try to run it back the next year with the same team. And he said, I think what we learned is that you have to make some changes. You have to be prepared to move to younger players. You have to just kind of be prepared to move on. You can't just let loyalty take over or no, let's keep them. Maybe we can do it another year. You have to be prepared to make those decisions. And I think that both Slay and Gardner Johnson fell into that area. And I thought it almost was going to happen to Goddard. It looked like they were prepared to let Goddard go or trade
him, but couldn't.
And you saw Thursday night how much you need Goddard. That would have been a big mistake to let him go. I'm glad he's still here. But I think it was that kind of thing, because Howie expressed some regret over time that, what happened that next year was, we tried to keep it together too long and it wound up hurting us. I think that led to some of the decisions they made, and they're paying a price for it now.
Yeah, I get that. I get that if you're really comfortable of having a young guy step in that's going to be at the same talent level. But giving up on a guy when you have a need at a position, to me, is questionable. Defensively, really impressed with Zach Bond again. This kid is really athletic. Him and Jahad Campbell are covering those tight ends in the seam route like no linebackers that I've seen in recent memory for the Eagles. Two really athletic guys. I thought Dak Prescott played pretty well in that game. Miles Sanders did the Miles Sanders thing with the big fumble that got him out of Philly. I did want to ask both of you guys, what do you think of Chris Collinsworth as an analyst? A lot of people really bash him on Twitter and X, but I'm not a fan of his style, but I do think he has some pretty insightful comments during the game. He obviously knows football really well.
You go first, Ray.
Oh, okay. I think he's very sharp. I think you can tell when they go to a replay, he knows exactly what happened and why it happened. Mm-hmm. Like when he goes to begin diagramming, he knows exactly what he saw, and he's pretty good at the X's and O's part of it. I just think and this is not just him, it's a lot of the TV people. They're just so into storylines. I mean, they go into the game with the idea that, these are my three storylines, and I'm going to talk about him and him and him, mm-hmm. and I'm going to see the whole game through that prism. And the thing that I'll always remember, I don't want to say I'm going to hold it against him, but I'll always remember, was Super Bowl 52. He was so bound and determined to tell the story of the greatness of Tom Brady. And throughout that game, I mean, it was all about Brady this, Brady that, Brady's this. He set this record, and Brady did throw for 500 yards. I get that, but the real when the Patriots have that final possession and they're moving down the field, and there was this. If you listen to it back again, Collinsworth is saying kind of and here comes Brady again. You got Brady in these spots. We've seen him do this before. He's setting the stage for Brady to come back, take that game to overtime, and win it. Mm-hmm. If you listen to that game again, when he throws the Hail Mary into the end zone for Gronkowski, and there's that moment where you can't quite tell where the ball mm-hmm. is, and then you see the ball hit the ground, you will hear Collinsworth go, oh. Like he was so disappointed, mm-hmm. And I don't even know if he realized he said it. I think it was an unconscious reflex. But you hear that the play is being called, but you hear in the background, oh.
Well, Ray, as a guy who loves the Eagles as much as you do, you've probably watched the replay 15 times and heard the exasperation at the end. Hey, listen, I just want to say we've got a great lineup here of guests coming up. We've got Randall Cunningham this year. We've got, of course, Dick Vermeil. Bobby Taylor is going to be on. Doug Peterson is going to join us this year. Gary Cobb and Reggie Wilkes, my old teammate, and some others. I want to really thank Ray for helping us get kicked off here. And Ray, you've got a project coming up, an interesting play about hockey. Why don't you tell people about that and where it's going to be?
Okay. Thank you, Ken. Yes, I think folks know about Tommy and me, the play that I wrote about me and Tommy McDonald. Believe it or not, Ken, this is it's celebrating its 10th anniversary this summer. Amazing.
I was there for one of the
I know
first
you
ones.
You were there for the launch of it, really. Yeah. And that was in 2015. And here we are in 2025, and it's still going. And we're bringing it back again to the People's Light Theater in Malvern in October. I hope people, if you haven't seen it before, there's a chance to come out and see it. But I've written a new play, which will be opening in just a couple of weeks, and it's called Spinner. And it's a play about ice hockey in the 1970s, that whole rough and tumble slapshot era of hockey. That's what the play is about. And it's going to be at the Delaware Theater Company in Wilmington. We open September 17th, and it runs through October the 5th. So if you want to come out, I think it's the only play that's ever been written about ice hockey. So,
how can people get tickets?
Broken new ground, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, you've always been a trendsetter. How do people get tickets? Where can they go?
Just go to the Delaware Theater Company website, and you'll see just click on the logo for Spinner, and you can buy your tickets. We have some great special guests who are going to come and do Q&As after the show. Bernie Perrant is going to come out one night. He's going to do a Q&A with us. The Watson brothers, Jimmy and Joe Watson from the Stanley Cup team, they're coming one night. Brian Propp. Jim Gardner, the former anchor from Channel 6, is coming out one night. Angelo Cataldi. So look, if you go to the Delaware Theater Company website, you'll see the list of all the Q&A hosts. So pick a night when it's somebody you want to hear from and come out and see the play. It's a lot different kind of story than Tommy and me, but I think people will find it pretty compelling.
Awesome. Well, I will be there. And again, I want to thank you for being the guest in our initial episode of the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark. For my partner, Mark Eckel, I'm Ken Dunek. We will see you next week, everybody, on the Bird Brains. And by the way, this Kansas City game,
I was going to say, we didn't mention the fact that
they're gonna be angry, like the old man sending soup back to a deli, as Seinfeld used to say, because they're in Brazil, they got beat. The Eagles are going to have their hands full this weekend, and we'll talk about it next week. Again, for Mark Eckel, I'm Ken Dunek. Thanks for watching the Bird Brains, everybody. Take care.